Yeah, it's not for me, but I feel like there's a lot of people who are going one way too far and the other way too
Yeah.
far. You know what I mean? Like there's people who, like for example, I was listening to Josh Thompson and Big John McCarthy on their podcast, and they were talking about it like it was boxing. And I think we have to understand that it's not really boxing. I mean, it is in terms of they put on 10-ounce gloves or whatever gloves they're wearing and they punch each other in the face. But in terms of the product they're actually selling, the promoters, what they're actually selling, they're not really selling boxing. They're selling a show. They're selling something a little bit different. I mean, it kind of reminds me of, there was this controversy with Martin Scorsese. He was talking about Marvel movies. He said like Marvel movies aren't cinema. And people like rightfully got really upset about that. But then when he explained what he meant by it, that the fact that you go to a Marvel movie, and it doesn't really happen in Ireland, but I know in the States it happens, when something really big happens and people are like cheering and like, it's an event. It's something different than like if you go to see a Scorsese movie or like The Godfather, you're not going to get any of that. And he was just saying that that's a different experience than what I feel cinema is. So I think that kind of makes sense. And I think that kind of applies here. Like as a boxing fan, you're going into this and you're expecting some kind of boxing show. That's not what you're getting, but that's not what they're trying to sell either. They're trying to sell this other thing. I didn't like it very much. I didn't think it was great. But I think people getting like really outraged by it, it's kind of funny. Like I don't get it. I don't get why you're getting so outraged by it.
And I mean, this is something we know across boxing and MMA. The hardcore don't buy pay-per-views. They don't buy t-shirts. They don't buy.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't buy merch. It's not the hardcore aren't the selling group here or the target audience here. You're targeting people like that group chat I mentioned. You're targeting those people with kids who are going to buy a pay-per-view and might buy a t-shirt.
Yeah.
That's your targeting. And I mean, I totally agree with you about the people going too far one way or the other. It's such a, it annoys me a lot because generally the answer is always in the middle. It's not, nothing's black or white. We know that.
Another thing that I was thinking about was people talking about how it's hurting boxing. I don't buy that either. I don't see how, like, go back to that kind of comparison I made with the whole Marvel cinema thing. And I get how you can argue that Marvel movies are hurting smaller movies because there's only so much real estate that you have in a cinema. Like if you have this Marvel movie and it gets put into like every screen in that cinema because there's such demand, then these other films are going to get hurt. But like, is this taken away from any other boxing fights? Are they going to put money into a different boxing fight if Jake Paul or these guys didn't exist? It's not going to happen. Are these people who are so outraged by the fight not going to tune in to AJ versus Fury because, oh, Jake Paul ruined boxing for me, I can't tune in? No, it's something else. So I think I don't buy that argument either.
Yeah, that's as you were talking, that's the point I was thinking in my head. Am I not going to buy the AJ? Well, I'm not going to buy it anyway, but is
You're
someone
hardcore.
Is someone else not going to buy AJ Fury pay-per-view because they spent 60 quid on, I don't know how much it was, but because they
It's
spent
cheap. I think it was
whatever,
like 30 quid or something.
because they spent whatever on the Triller fight. It's unlikely. I mean, the people who are buying that Triller pay-per-view aren't going to watch AJ Fury anyway, probably. The people who are going to watch AJ Fury aren't going to watch Triller.
Exactly. It's a completely different audience. There's going to be a few people in between and, you know, they have a decision to make, but it's not taking money out of anyone's pocket. No. It's also another point I think Big John made. I don't really want to, I'm not like saying, oh, Big John and these are wrong or I'm trying to fight with them. I respect both of them, of course. But like some of the points they were making, I was like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. One thing they said was that guys like boxers who aren't superstars, who aren't making huge amounts of money, like Terence Crawford or something like that, they should be really upset because Jake Paul is making all this money. And again, it's the same argument. If Jake Paul didn't exist, is that money just going to get transferred over to your Terence Crawfords? No, because this money does not exist unless you have someone like Jake Paul, because it's a different product. Like Triller aren't going to say, oh, we don't have Jake Paul, we're going to give this money to Terence Crawford. It doesn't work like that. It's not transferable. It's bizarre.
It's the same argument as people who don't like how much Premier League footballers get paid. So they say, well, oh, the nurses should earn more. Well, it doesn't work like that. There's not 76,000 people queuing up outside Drogheda Hospital to go watch the nurses fucking wheel a man into a room.
Exactly.
It's supply and demand. I mean, Terence Crawford is on a lot of pound-for-pound lists in boxing. No one tunes in to watch him, so he doesn't earn as much.
I also heard a lot of people talking about the broadcast, how bad it was. And from the parts I did see, it did seem an absolute shambles. And I don't know how sustainable it is. But in terms of the numbers that it done, and I know there's some kind of controversy about what they said. Like Jake Paul said they done like 1.5 million buys or something like that. And I know John Nash came out and said that he thinks it was about half that. But I mean, even if it done 700,000, 800,000 pay-per-view buys for like a 2-fight, 3-fight card, like that's, I
mean, like
3-fight card, that's incredible. Like that's insane.
It was essentially a 1-fight card. Let's be real about
like Frank Mir was on it.
Yeah, no one was buying that pay-per-view to watch Steve Cunningham.
No, definitely not. But I mean, even if it done that, if it done 1.5, unbelievable stuff. But even if it done 800,000, something like that, that's an unbelievable achievement. I just don't know, like they're pumping a shit ton of money into it, so I don't know how profitable it is.
I think there's a lot of bitterness among fighters as to how much Jake Paul is earning. And I mean, I understand it, but they're undermining themselves because Robert Whittaker said in his post-fight press conference that he'd fight Jake Paul for half of what Ben Askren fought him. Ugh. I mean, there's a problem straight away.
Yeah, that's horrible. That's
a problem, like right there. That's the issue with MMA fighters. They undersell themselves and don't even realize they're doing it.
Yeah, it's horrible. There was one other point as well, just about me personally, about like what I felt about it and just kind of what my own experience with it told me about myself. So on Sunday morning, I didn't watch any fights on Saturday. I went to bed fairly early. On Sunday morning, I woke up and one of the first things I did was check the result of that fight. So I think that tells me that I have like this perverse intrigue about it, but not enough like I did with the UFC, because I didn't check the result of that. I waited and watched it without spoilers. So I was interested in a certain way, but not interested enough that I didn't want to know the result. I wanted to see it in real time, if that makes sense.